A family in Huddersfield walks into Currys on a Saturday morning. Their old machine has finally given up. They've got £350 to spend. The salesperson walks them through the floor. They look at a Hotpoint. They look at an Indesit. They look at a Whirlpool. 3 different badges, 3 different price points, 3 different promises. The Hotpoint is marketed as the reliable British classic. The Indesit is the sensible budget buy. The Whirlpool is the premium step-up. They pick the Hotpoint, mid-range, solid reputation, British name. They feel good about it. 4 years later, the door lock fails. A repair engineer quotes them £140 for the repair on a £329 washing machine. Here is what that family was never told on that Saturday morning. The Hotpoint, the Indesit and the Whirlpool they were looking at on that shop floor are all made by the same company. They share the same parent engineering platform. They come out of the same production facilities in Italy and Poland. The same sealed drum design. The same control electronics. The same fundamental architecture underneath 3 different sets of branding. You did not choose between 3 companies that morning. You chose between 3 labels. That is not competition. That is the illusion of competition. And today we are blowing the roof off it. Before we dive in, comment where you are watching from and click subscribe. If you are new here, this channel exists for one reason: to tell you what the appliance industry, the retailers and the marketing departments do not want you to know before you hand over your money. No manufacturer pays for placement on this channel. A couple of them would probably prefer this video did not exist. That is how you know we are doing it right. Today we are going deep on the UK washing machine market. Specifically, we are going to name the one corporate structure that now controls Hotpoint, Indesit and the Whirlpool brand in Britain. We are going to explain exactly what that means for you when you are standing in a shop comparing what look like different machines. We are going to go through the safety recall history that the company would rather you had forgotten. And at the end, we are going to tell you what the engineers who actually repair these things after the warranty expires say you should buy instead. This is the video to watch before you spend a single pound on a new washing machine in Britain. Let us get into it. To understand where we are today, you need to understand what happened over the last decade. Because this story did not happen overnight. It happened in stages, and at each stage the public was told very little about what it actually meant. It starts with Hotpoint. Hotpoint is one of the oldest appliance names in Britain. The brand goes back over a century. For decades, Hotpoint machines were actually made here. There was a factory in Llandudno Junction in North Wales producing around 800,000 washing machines a year, with roughly 1,000 workers on site. When your parents or grandparents talk about their Hotpoint lasting 20 years, that is what they are remembering. A machine made in Britain, built to be serviced, with parts you could actually get hold of. Then the ownership chain started moving. Hotpoint was acquired by an Italian company called Indesit. Indesit rolled the Hotpoint brand name across Europe in 2011 and brought its own engineering philosophy with it. The sealed outer drum, the proprietary electronics that require specialist software to diagnose, the platform that made the old Hotpoint, the repairable, serviceable British machine, essentially became obsolete. Then in 2014, the American giant Whirlpool Corporation bought Indesit company outright. That meant overnight, Whirlpool owned Hotpoint, it owned the Indesit brand, and it was selling its own Whirlpool branded machines as well. 3 brands, 1 owner, 1 engineering family underneath. The repair industry knew immediately. Independent engineers started calling it out publicly. Forums were full of technicians pointing out that the so-called Hotpoint they were seeing on repair callouts was, under the casing, an Indesit. The sealed drum, the same fault codes, the same proprietary control boards that only engineers approved by Whirlpool with the specialist laptops could properly diagnose. But here's where it gets bigger. In 2023, Whirlpool announced it was pulling out of Europe entirely. Its European operations, including every brand it owned on this continent, were folded into a new joint venture with a Turkish company called Arçelik, the parent of Beko. That joint venture is called Beko Europe. Arçelik owns 75% of it, and Whirlpool keeps 25%. And what is inside Beko Europe? Beko, Blomberg, Hotpoint, Indesit, Grundig, Bauknecht, all under one roof, all under one operational structure. The deal completed in April 2024. The Competition and Markets Authority reviewed it and cleared it, noting the merged entity would become the largest individual supplier of washing machines, tumble dryers, dishwashers, and cooking appliances in the British market, a market worth over £3.8 billion. So let us be precise about what this means when you walk into a retailer today. When you see Hotpoint on the shelf, that is Beko Europe. When you see Indesit, that is Beko Europe. When you see the Whirlpool brand, that is also Beko Europe, and Beko itself, also Beko Europe. One company, multiple labels, prices engineered to hit different psychological price points at the shelf. The budget buyer picks Indesit and feels frugal. The cautious mid-market buyer picks Hotpoint and feels responsible. The aspirational buyer stretches to Whirlpool and feels like they've made a considered upgrade. All three feelings were manufactured by the same marketing department, serving the same bottom line, from the same production lines. Whirlpool-owned brands, including Hotpoint, had 24% of UK washing machine owners before the Beko deal. Fold Beko in at around 15%, and you're looking at one corporate entity touching roughly 40% of washing machines in British homes. 4 in every 10 machines sitting in British kitchens right now. And almost nobody standing in a shop comparing machines knows any of this. Now the industry will push back on this. They will tell you the brands are different. Different features, different programs, different finishes. And to be fair, that part is partially true. There are differences at the surface level. The Hotpoint tends to be spec'd slightly higher than the Indesit. Better dampers, slightly heavier drum suspension, some additional wash programs. On a 1,400 revolutions per minute spin cycle, a Hotpoint tends to come in around 77 decibels, while an equivalent Indesit edges closer to 81 decibels. But those are differences applied on top of the same fundamental architecture. They share factories in Italy and Poland. They share the sealed outer drum design, the design that when a bearing fails, means the entire outer drum has to be replaced rather than just the bearing. They share the same proprietary control electronics that require specialist software to reprogram. This matters for one specific reason: repairability. The old British-made Hotpoint was one of the most repairable machines on the market. Engineers loved them. They were simple to fault find, and parts were available everywhere. You could keep one running for 15 or 20 years with basic maintenance. When Indesit took over, that changed fundamentally. An independent engineer working on a Hotpoint today needs software approved by Whirlpool just to diagnose and reprogram the control modules. That software is not available to the independent trade. It is controlled by the manufacturer. Think about what that means for repair economics. You have a washing machine that cost you £320. The door lock fails. An out-of-warranty call-out is around £80 to £100 just for the visit. If the control board has failed, the parts alone cost £80 to £120, and reprogramming requires an authorised engineer. The repair quote starts looking very close to the replacement cost, and the manufacturer knows this. When you call out of warranty, you'll be pushed toward a monthly repair plan, what the trade calls a cover plus plan, rather than a single repair. Monthly, ongoing, indefinitely. The machine was not designed to last forever. The service structure was not designed to keep it running. Both were designed to extract money across the product lifecycle. That is the business model. Before we get to what you should buy, we have to talk about the safety record. This is where the story stops being about money and starts being about something more serious. In December 2019, Whirlpool, which at that point owned Hotpoint and Indesit, announced a recall of up to 519,000 washing machines. 500,000 machines in British homes had a defective door locking mechanism. The fault caused the door lock to overheat and catch fire, not during a hot wash, during any cycle above 20 degrees, even a cold wash. The machines had been manufactured between October 2014 and February 2018. By the time of the recall, there had already been 79 confirmed fires across the UK linked to these machines. 79 fires. In people's kitchens. The London Fire Brigade issued direct warnings. People were told to unplug their machines and stop using them entirely. And crucially, this did not come as a voluntary decision by Whirlpool. The recall followed direct intervention by the Office for Product Safety and Standards. The government had to force the action. but it goes further back than 2019. In 2015, there had already been a safety alert for tumble dryers, Hotpoint, Indesit, Creda, Proline and Swan branded dryers, manufactured from 2004 to 2015. A design flaw allowed lint to build up around the heating element and catch fire. In July 2019, Whirlpool finally issued a full recall on those dryers, up to 800,000 machines. That came more than 3.5 years after the company first acknowledged the fire problem existed. In 2017, a Hotpoint fridge freezer was identified as the appliance that triggered the Grenfell Tower fire in London, killing 72 people. The model had been manufactured from 2006 to 2009 by Indesit under the Hotpoint brand before Whirlpool took over. This is the safety record of the corporate family behind 3 of the brands currently on the shelves of Currys, AO, John Lewis and Argos right now. Machines manufactured today are not the same as those recalled models. The defects have been addressed, but the pattern of how these issues were handled, the delays, the need for government intervention, and the pressure campaigns instead of immediate voluntary action tells you something about the corporate culture and the priority structure of this organisation. Drop a comment right now. Do you own a Hotpoint, Indesit or Whirlpool machine? Have you ever had a fault, a recall letter, or a repair that cost nearly as much as a replacement? I guess a significant number of you will say yes, and a lot of you will say you had no idea all 3 brands were the same company. That is not a coincidence. That is the information asymmetry the industry depends on to function. Let us talk about what buying within this brand family actually costs you across a realistic ownership period. Buying the cheap option can cost you more in the long run. Option 1. You go to Currys and pick up an Indesit entry-level 8 kilograms for £230. You feel sensible, budget-conscious. Conservative estimate is, it runs 6 years before a significant fault. In year 3 you get a pump blockage and a call-out. In year 6 a bearing starts to fail. The sealed outer drum makes the repair uneconomic. You replace the machine, another £230, then another. Over 12 years you have bought 3 machines, had at least 2 engineer call-outs, and spent around £700 to £800 including repair visits and disposal costs, and you have had the stress of laundry going down 3 times. Option 2, you buy a mid-range Bosch around £550 to £600. The drum design allows bearing replacement without replacing the entire outer tub. Expect 10 to 12 years of reliable service. By year 12 you have spent £600, potentially had 1 service visit, and you're still running the same machine. The same scenario that cost you £800 across 3 Indesit machines cost you £600 and 1 phone call. Savings are clear. Option 3, you go premium Miele around £800 to £1,000. Miele tests its machines to 20 years of use. That is their engineering specification. By year 20 you have spent £1,000. The Indesit buyer has spent over £1,500 and owns 6 machines. Value is obvious. The sticker price is a trap. The total cost of ownership is the number that matters. Here is the list that the people who actually repair washing machines after the warranty expires use. Not what the manufacturers market, not what the retailers push hardest on commission, what the engineers choose for their own homes. Miele, if you can stretch to it. This is not a flashy recommendation, it is a boring one. Miele machines are not glamorous. The design is conservative, but the engineering underneath is a different class entirely. Miele tests its machines to 20 years of operational use. That is not a marketing claim. It is their engineering specification, the standard their internal testing is built around. The drum architecture allows for proper servicing. Bearings can be replaced without swapping the entire outer tub. Parts availability is excellent. Engineers who work across all brands say the same thing. Miele machines come back less often, and when they do come back, they are cheaper to fix because they were designed to be fixed. At around £800 entry level, over a 20-year period that is £40 per year. The Indesit at £230 looks cheaper. The Miele costs less. Bosch, the realistic everyday option for most British households. The EcoSilence Drive brushless motor is the key reason engineers recommend it. Brushless motors have fewer moving parts that wear out, run quieter, and last longer under normal use. Bosch is part of the BSH group alongside Siemens and Neff, all built to similar engineering standards in German and Spanish production facilities. Expect 10 to 12 years of solid service with normal maintenance. For a family doing 5 or 6 washes a week, a Bosch in the £500 to £600 range is the pragmatic, sensible choice. AEG, part of the Electrolux Group. Similar price point to Bosch, around £400 to £700 for the mainstream range. AEG has a strong track record on reliability in the UK, and the drum architecture is genuinely more repairable than anything in the Beko Europe family. Independent engineers consistently rate it well. If Bosch is out of stock or slightly over budget at the moment, AEG is an equivalent choice, not a compromise. Samsung, a technology-forward recommendation. Samsung's eco-bubble system dissolves detergent in water before it enters the drum, which improves wash performance at lower temperatures and reduces running costs. The reliability record on models from the last 3 to 4 years has improved significantly compared to earlier generations. If you want smart home connectivity alongside solid performance, Samsung deserves serious consideration above anything in the Beko Europe portfolio. Here is the rule. Write this down. When you're comparing machines in a shop, ask one question before you look at anything else. Can this machine's bearings be replaced without replacing the entire outer drum? With anything in the Beko Europe family, the answer is almost certainly no. That is a machine engineered with a fixed service life built in, not designed to fail from day one, but not designed to be kept running either. The sealed drum is the tell. Walk away from the sealed drum. Hotpoint was a British brand. The factories in Llandudno Junction and elsewhere employed British workers, and they made machines that lasted decades. The last remaining Hotpoint manufacturing site in the United Kingdom, the Yate plant, closed on the 31st of December 2024 after 104 years of operation. It is gone. All Hotpoint machines are now made in Italy and Poland. The brand name survives. The British manufacturing history does not. What you are buying when you buy a Hotpoint today is a label with decades of goodwill attached to it. Goodwill earned by machines that no longer exist in the form you're picturing when you see that name on the shelf. The engineering that built the reputation is gone. The reputation is being spent. This is not unique to Hotpoint. It is the story of consolidation across the entire appliance industry. Brands that earned consumer trust over decades get acquired, cost-optimized, and eventually hollowed out until the name is the only thing that remains. The brand is kept alive because the recognition drives sales. The recognition was earned by machines made differently, by companies operating under different incentive structures, in a different era. The British consumer in 2026 walks into shops and chooses between brands that appear to be independent competitors, but in many cases they are subsidiaries of the same parent operation. That is not your failure as a consumer. You're not supposed to know this. The shelf is laid out to make you feel like you are making an informed, competitive choice. You're not. Unless you know what we have just told you. Here is what you take away from this video. Hotpoint, Indesit and the Whirlpool brand in the UK are now all under Beko Europe, a single corporate entity that is the largest domestic appliance supplier in Britain. When you are choosing between them in a shop, you're not comparing competing companies. You're navigating a pricing architecture designed by one organisation. The sealed outer drum means that a failed bearing, in most cases, turns a repairable fault into a machine replacement decision. That is by design. The safety recall history is recent, and it is directly relevant to the corporate culture you're dealing with when you buy these brands today. 519,000 washing machines were recalled in 2019. 800,000 tumble dryers were recalled after years of delay. There is also a link to Grenfell that will never be forgotten. The engineers who work on washing machines for a living, the ones who see what breaks and what does not years after the warranty expires, do not buy within the Beko Europe family for their own homes. They buy Miele, they buy Bosch, they buy AEG, they buy Samsung, They buy on total cost of ownership, on repairability, and on build quality that was designed to last, rather than engineered to a price point. The cheapest machine on the shelf is almost never the cheapest machine to own. The most trusted name on the badge is not always the most trustworthy machine inside the casing. And the choice you think you are making is not always the choice that actually exists. Now you know. Share this with anyone who is about to buy a washing machine. If you want to know which specific models we rate across those better brands, with prices, drum sizes, and the exact features worth paying for, that video's coming next. Subscribe now so you do not miss it.